Hello friends, we are considering the other category of the mineral processing techniques which we refer to as concentration. Now again, the overall mineral processing or the techniques that are involved in it can be categorized into two. One is the liberation and the other is the concentration. Liberation essentially breaks down a larger particle and then separates by virtue of breaking it down or fragmenting the larger particle, it separates the entrapped desired mineral from that of the impurities, or which we refer to as gangue. Now the other category of techniques that are associated with mineral processing, they are referred to as concentration, because the process of liberation, what it renders is, what it gives us is a mixture of smaller particles that includes both the desired minerals and also the impurities. So then it becomes our responsibility to separate the desired mineral from that of the impurities, and that is being carried out in the process of concentration. Now, even though the process of liberation principally involves breaking down larger particles into smaller ones, there are few techniques that are associated with the liberation that do not perform these characteristic tasks, meaning they do not essentially perform or they do not essentially break down these larger particles into smaller ones, even though they are part of liberation or comminution. So one such process is screening and other such process is classification. So we saw both these processes, even though they are integral part of, or they can be treated as an integral part, or they are vital for the comminution process or the liberation process. These two processes, that is screening and classification, they do not in principle break down the larger particles into smaller ones. Now, however, it is vital for us to consider these techniques primarily because they give us a good transition from one processing techniques to another processing techniques. So they give us a good transition from the fragmentation to that of concentration. So the concentration, what essentially is done is, we are increasing in a given mixture, we are increasing or we are separating the mineral particles from that of the impurities or gangue particles. Now if you consider a given mixture, then you keep on separating the gangue from that given mixture, and what is essentially left is the mineral particles. Then what you are doing is, in principle, if you consider a mixture and if you keep on removing the gangue particle out of it, you are in principle increasing the concentration of the mineral particles. So you have say 20% or say 50% mineral particles and 50% gangue, and if you remove 10% of the gangue particle, then when you reassess the volume or the distribution of gangue and mineral, then you would observe that the percentage of mineral has increased because you have removed some amount of gangue. So because of this reason, this is referred to as the concentration process. Now, the previous lectures we introduced, so this concentration process in itself is can be achieved by different techniques. So one can increase the concentration of a given mineral particle within a mixture using different techniques, and one such technique which we saw in our previous lecture, to which this particular image pertains to, we refer to it as gravity separation. And in that gravity separation, so gravity separation is one of the process through which the concentration can be achieved, and in that gravity separation, this particular image pertains to a particular technique which employs a setup called as jigs. So this is what we saw in our previous lecture. So one of the concentration technique that has a relevance to, that has a noticeable similarity with the classification, is the gravity separation. So the relevance is in classification, which is again an advanced form of screening. In classification, what we allow is, or what we the way the classification is achieved is, we allow the mixture of particles, mineral and gangue particles, to interact with a given fluid. We allow the mixture of mineral and gangue particles to fall into, or to propagate in the downward direction, or to fall across the given fluid. Now, when you allow the a given combination of particles to fall through a given fluid, what happens is this fluid, it interacts with the falling particles, and depending on the properties or the features of the particles, these particles assume a constant velocity. This we refer to as the terminal velocity. So therefore, there is rather two contradicting force. One is the friction, the other is one that pulls the particle downwards, which often is the gravitational force. So you have an accelerating force, you have a resisting force. Combination of these two renders a characteristic terminal velocity to the particles, and depending on this velocity, the time taken for this particle to settle down varies, and correspondingly it is possible for us to then classify the different categories of material or different categories of particles. Now this is possible because this difference in the velocity is possible because the response achieved by the accelerating and the resisting force on that of the particles which are propagating depends on the features of the particle like size, density and mass. So because there is a difference in the density, size and mass between the different particles in a given mixture, we are able to make this separation. So this is how classification works. And the same, more or less similar operation is performed in case of the gravity separation, particularly the one involving jigs. Now in classification, we saw that instead of having a static fluid, it is possible for us to have a dynamic fluid, the fluid that is propagating in a direction or that is progressing or moving in a direction that is opposed to the downward propagation of the particles. So therefore, when the particle is not able to overcome the force that is offered by the dynamic fluid, then the particle gets carried away by this dynamic fluid. So in order to ensure that the particle stays in its track of downward movement, the particle should be able to overcome the upward propagation of the fluid. And if it is not possible because of its characteristic features like mass, density and size, if it is not possible, then the particle flows along with the fluid and gets gathered as an overflow particle. If it is able to overcome it, then it's gathered as an underflow particle. So this is how we make the distinction in case of classification. Now, the similar approach is taken in the gravity separation using jigs. Here, we consider a dynamic fluid and we allow for the features of the different particles to behave in a different manner in response to this dynamic fluid, and based on this difference in the behavior, we attempt to classify we attempt to separate one category of particles from another. So this is the similarity between classification and jigs. So in both cases, the dynamic fluid is involved, and so that is because of this dynamic fluid, and in both cases we allow the materials to respond to this dynamic fluid and the interaction with this dynamic fluid, and there is a difference between how a given particle responds to the dynamic fluid, and it depends on the characteristic features of the particle. And depending on this response, given that there is a difference in this response, we are exploiting that difference to separate one category of particles to another. So this is rather the overall similarity between jigs and the classification. Now when you narrow it down and when you focus on the gravity separation using jigs, here what we are not interested in is we don't want the role of the size of the particles to play or to be dominant. We want to separate particles essentially largely or primarily based on the densities, because our interest in gravity separation is not to separate particles based on their sizes. In case of classification and in case of framing, the primary goal is often to separate the particles based on their sizes, because correspondingly the next output or the next step varies. So if you are using classification and you are separating particles based on their sizes, the underflow particles, which usually are larger in size, they are fed back to the milling or the grinding or crushing, and the overflow particles, which are usually smaller in sizes, they are fed back to or they are progressed to the next step. So here in case of screening and classification, the end goal or the criteria is often based on the size. But when you move to gravity separation, which now is a part of concentration, the principle that one wants to employ, the distinguishing or the criteria that one wants to introduce to separate the particles is not size, but the density of the particles, because density is different for the impurities and the minerals. So therefore, we want, or in case of concentration using gravity separation, the dominant role should be played by the density, not the size or the mass. So therefore, what we need to do is we need to ensure that the role of the size is rather prevented, or the role of the dominance of the size is rather minimized while we are employing the gravity separation through jigs. Now, in order to do that, we need to understand the operation of the jigs, and we saw that in the previous lecture. The operation of the jigs involves upward and downward movement of the ore box. So generally in jigs, the separation is achieved by the way the jigs operates is through the upward and downward movement of the ore box, which contains, so this is the ore box, and this contains both heavy and light particles. So the heavy particles can be mineral particles and the light particles can be gangue particles. So it can be the other way around as well. So this ore box is allowed to move upward and downward in a bath. So you have a bath that is filled with water and you allow the ore box to move upward and downward, and this downward movement is called as pulsion, and the upward movement is referred to as the suction movement. So you have a combination of the pulsion and suction movement. So in gravity separation using jigs, characteristically we have this combination of movement of this ore box, that is pulsion, and the suction movement. So in case of pulsions, what essentially is when you relate the operation of a jig to that of the classification process, the equipment that is employed in the classification process or the operation of the classification process, in the pulsion what you have is you allow the interaction of the particles with the dynamic fluid that is moving in a direction opposite to the flow of the particles. So in this case of jigs, the principal accelerating force is the force of gravity. So as the name itself indicates, the principal accelerating force is the force of gravity. So the particles, they want to move downwards. Now as opposed to that, during the pulsion action, so when you allow when you bring the ore box downward, then you are allowing the particle, or you are allowing the fluid to flow in the opposite direction. So this interaction between the opposite direction of the fluid flow and the particles which desire to go downward is the similarity between it's one of the similarities between the jigs and the operation of the jigs and that of the that we observe during classification. Now again, the reason we need to consider these different movements separately, the pulsion and the suction action separately, because we want to avoid the role of the size, the behavior of the particle, the response of the particles to the fluids. We want to ensure that this response is largely governed or is primarily governed by the density, not by the size of the particles. So therefore, when we allow the pulsion to prolong, what happens is the interaction between the particle and the fluid allows the size to play a role, and therefore the settling down or the settling of the particles, as we see here, becomes rather convoluted, becomes rather entangled. What we essentially have in case of when we allow, so when you impose this pulsion action, immediately at the very moment you have a separation, you have a distinction that is made between the particles, and that is primarily due to the density difference. So at the moment of the pulsion action, the moment the particles interact with the dynamic fluid that is moving upward, at that very moment or the moment close to it, you have a separation that occurs, and this separation is primarily or is due to the difference in the density, and this is what we refer to as the differential initial acceleration. So there are too many shales here, but differential initial acceleration. So this is primarily because of the difference in the density, and this is something that we want to sustain. But the sustainability is quite difficult because this happens at the microsecond level. This happens immediately or instantaneously when your particle gets in contact with the dynamic fluid. Now any prolongation in this interaction will allow the size to play a role. And once you have the slice playing a role, then the separation becomes rather entangled, and as you can see here, the small dense particle or the small heavy particle get accumulated along with, or get separated or distinguished or occupy a region along with a large light particle. So this is because we have allowed the settling to, we prolong the settling in such a way that the size also plays a role. Now, in order to ensure that the separation that is achieved in the initial stages during the initial acceleration is sustained, we have to appropriately plan our pulsion and suction action. And finally, it is also possible for us through the suction movement to ensure that the separation is based on density. So this consolidation trickling, it occurs at the final stages of the pulsion, and it is possible for us to manipulate our pulsion or the sequence of pulsion and action in such a way that this consolidation trickling is based on, or the separation during the consolidation trickling is based on the density, so that you have dense particle or heavy particle at the bottom, whereas the light particle at the top. Now, this is not the end of the consolidation trickling, even though it can be one form of a consolidation trickling can be achieved in just by pulsion alone. What we observe here is an ideal case of consolidation trickling. So you can achieve at one form of a consolidation trickling through pulsion alone, and this just pulsion alone, meaning you have introduced just pulsion and you achieve a consolidation trickling. And in that case, what we observe is we have a compact that is forming, and the dominant role in that consolidation trickling will be played by the size of the particle. If we want to achieve a separation that is based on density, then we have to have several cycles of the combination of suction and, or rather suction and pulsion. Let me repeat, when you allow just one cycle of pulsion, you drop your ore box into the water and you let it settle, then what you would observe is, you would observe consolidation trickling. You would initially observe the differential acceleration that is based on density, and then you would observe inert settling, and finally you would observe consolidation trickling. All this will be observed for one cycle of pulsion. For one cycle of pulsion, all these will be observed. However, the desired results of separating particles based on their density will not be achieved. What we will have is, we will have a consolidation of the particle based on their sizes. You will have dense particles, then large dense particles that are surrounded by both light dense small light particles and small dense particles. So the consolidation that we achieved for one pulsion movement alone will be a formation of a compact, and that compact will be largely based on the difference in the size of the particles, which is not our desire. So in order to have a consolidation, in order to achieve a consolidation trickling that serves our final goal, we have the combination of suction and pulsion movement. So only through the combination of suction and pulsion movement we will be able to achieve a separation that is based on the density, not based on sizes. Only through the combination of suction and pulsion we will be able to rather separate or distinguish particles based on their densities rather than allowing for the size to play a key role. And that is the reason why we have this characteristic build of a jig. So if you could recollect, we have the schematic representation of this jig we considered was of this form. We had a bath, and we had a setup that will allow for the pulsion and suction movement of the ore box. So you had a bath that is filled with water, and this is your ore box, and this setup here would govern or dictate the pulsion and suction movement. Now, when there is only one pulsion action, what you end up having is, we would end up having a consolidation trickling. The whole mechanism remains the same. We will achieve a consolidation trickling, but that consolidation trickling will have a distribution, will allow for a particle to, will allow for a formation of a compact that is based on that is largely governed by the size of the particles. On the other hand, if you allow for the combination of suction and pulsion, it is possible for us to arrive at a consolidation trickling, which is similar to the one that is represented here, wherein the separation is based on the density of the particles. So this is how the jigs operate, and this is how we arrive or we achieve concentration through the operation of the jigs. Now we will move away from the jigs, and then we will move away or we will move towards another technique which has rather a funny name, and this technique is referred to as the shaking table technique. Yeah, so I don't know. So this is the name that that is the using which the technique is referred to, and of course there is a relevance of this name, and there is a reason why this name is rather preferred. And this shaking table technique is an alternate for performing gravity separation instead of the jigs. So when you have when the alternate for jigs is this shaking table approach, and as the name indicates, this of course will comprise of a table that is rather vibrating or shaking, and we will make use of this behavior of the table, and using that we will essentially ensure the particles are being separated. Now if we consider that the jigs or the gravitation separation using jigs is close to that of what we see in classification. So if you consider the operation of the jigs, and most of its operation are relatable to that of classification, the operation of the shaking table is more or less relatable to that of the screening. So for the sake of good transition, we consider screening, classification, gravity separation, jigs, and now we are moving to a shaking table which has some similarity to that of the screening. Now we saw in our discussions on screening is rather a straightforward process. You have a screen that is inclined, and in this inclined screen you introduce your mixture of particles, and this screen, as the name indicates, it's a screen, and therefore there is perforation associated with it. And while the particles roll down because of this inclination, they interact with this perforation, and depending on their sizes, if they are undersized, they fall down or they pass through the perforations. If they are oversized, they propagate along the screen and they get collected here. So this is how a screening works. Now again, for some reasons, in order to ensure the efficiency of the screening, we introduce vibration here. Now the shaking table also operates in the similar principle. So the shaking table, it has a table that is inclined, similar to that of the screening. However, there is one primary difference here. It is not a screen, it is a table, so there are no perforations. This is a solid table, so there are absolutely no perforations here. So this is the similarity between the shaking table and that of screening. That is, in both cases you have an inclined structure, and in case of screening you have an inclined perforated table. In case of the shaking table approach, so what we are doing is, again, we are achieving or separating or achieving the concentration through gravity separation. So this is something that we should never forget. So meaning our primary goal is not to separate particles based on their sizes, but rather our primary goal is to separate the particles based on their densities. So in case of shaking table approach, what we have is we have a table that is inclined, and it is a solid table. There are no perforations. This again is similarity with the screening. Now there is also some certain degree of similarity with that of the classification and jigs. That is, in this table, in addition to the feed, so we are feeding something onto this table. So in addition to this feed, which comprises of the particles, the smaller fragmented particles of the mineral and gangue. So in addition to this, we allow some amount of, or we allow some fluid to accommodate, or we allow some fluid to flow along or on the surface of this table. So what we have is, we have an inclined table. We feed in the mixture of mineral and gangue particles that we get from that of the comminution or liberation. In addition to this feed, what we essentially do is we also introduce a fluid flow. So what we have is, we have in this case as well an interaction between the particle and a flowing or a dynamic fluid. Now, we have different forces that are acting in the case of the shaking table operation. So when you are concentrating, or when you are achieving concentration through the shaking table technique, so there are different forces that ultimately help us separate gang from that of the particle. So one, of course, is the accelerating force. So we have the accelerating force, which is rather even more enhanced by, so we have the accelerating force that is even more enhanced by the inclination. So you have an accelerating force. And in addition to that, we are introducing a fluid flow. So far we have considered an accelerating force that again is governed by the gravitational force. Of course, this is a part of gravity separation. This is rather enhanced by the inclination of the table. So the inclination adds to the accelerating flow. And in addition to that, you have a fluid flow. Now, similar to that of classification and the operation of Chicks, we allow this accelerating flow to interact with the fluids, and this interaction depends on the features of the particles. So depending, by exploiting the difference in the interaction, we ultimately are able to separate the particle based on their density. Now, in addition to this, in order to ensure that the efficiency of this operation is rather higher, in order to ensure that we are able to separate elegantly the mineral from that of the impurities, we introduce a shaking. So, but for this shaking here, we would just have an inclined table approach, but we need to have a shaking to do justice to the name, and therefore we have a specific form of a shaking. So this also introduces a specific amount of, or imposes a specific form of a load or specific form of a force to the particles. So you have combination of all three different forces. One, you have an accelerating force that is through the gravitation that is increased by the inclination. The other, you have a fluid flow, and the movement of the particle, the behavior of the particle is also further governed by the fluid flow. In addition to that, we have a specific form of shaking that is introduced to the table. Now, the particle should behave, or in the framework of the shaking table approach, when you have fed in your particle, the behavior of this particle is in response to all these three different forces. You have these three different forces, and the behavior of your particle is in response to these three different forces. And of course, this behavior depends on the response of your particle to these three different forces. This depends on its characteristic features, particularly density, and we ensure that these combination of forces enables us to separate the particles primarily based on their density, not on any other feature. The reason we have these convoluted interaction of different forces, this complex interaction of different forces, is principally because we want to avoid the influence of the sizes. We want to ensure that the particles are rather separated largely based on their density, and that is the reason why we introduce these three different kinds of forces. We ensure that these different kinds of forces are being imposed on the particles in the framework of shaking table. Now, the equipment or the setup that is used for the shaking table, or the shaking table itself, looks something like that. Of course, you are not able to see much of the inclination here, but this you have to take my word for it. So this is rather an inclined table, and what you have is, here you have a provision for including your feed, and here you have your provision for the including your fluid, a dynamic fluid. Now, this fluid often is water, and depending on the mineral you are handling, the fluid could vary. Now, it is important for us to understand at this juncture what is that the feed should be allowed to rather interact freely with the that of the fluid. So we have complex combinations of different forces, and the feed, the individual particle, should be allowed to respond to this complex combination of forces. It should not be that the interaction between the different particle acts as an additional force. any additional force that is offered by between the interaction between the particles. This should be avoided in most cases. So the whole response or the response of a particle on the shaking table should be principally governed by the three forces that we considered in the previous slide. These forces, the accelerating force because of the inclination of the gravity, the forces that is introduced by the fluid, and finally the forces that is because of the shaking. The behavior of the particle should be governed by these three forces alone. Only then we will be able to separate the particle based on their density. If there is any other force because of the interaction between the particles, like we see in the entered settling, if because of this interaction, if there is any additional force that is introduced, then the separation will not exclusively be based on or largely be based on density. So any additional interaction or any additional introduction of any additional force is rather reduced by appropriately ensuring a less amount of feed is introduced into the table when compared to that of the fluid. So we want to ensure that only the three forces that we intend are interacting with the particle. The behavior of the particle, the movement of the particle is principally governed by the three forces which we are voluntarily or which we are introducing into this technique. We need to avoid any other forces that are associated with or that can be imposed on the particle, or that is the possibility of that being introduced in the setup. So in order to avoid that, we ensure that during the shaking table process, we ensure that the proportion of fluid when compared to that of the feed is significantly higher. The proportion of fluid when compared to that of feed is significantly higher. Often, only 25% of the combination of feed or only when you consider the operation of the shaking table, and when you consider the combination of feed and water that is observed in a given or that is being treated in a given instant, you have combination of feed and water that is being treated in a given instant on a shaking table, only 25% of that combination of feed and water will be feed. So this low amount of feed in the fluid will ensure that there is not much interaction between the particles, will ensure that the force that governs the movement of the particle is the three force that we have introduced. So let me repeat, we want to ensure that the particles, the behavior of the particles are governed by the three forces that we introduce. And these three forces, accelerating, the fluid force, and finally the shaking force. Now, in order to do that, when compared to the amount of water we use, when compared to the amount of fluid we use, we significantly reduce the amount of feed. So when you consider the combination of water and feed, it is just 1/4 of this combination will be of feed and the 3/4 will be of water. So this allows the behavior of the particle largely based on their density and largely based on the response to these three forces that we are externally imposing. Now, once we set up such a condition and we start introducing the 3/4 combination of water with 1/4 combination of fluid, then we introduce a specific form of vibration, and this vibration is not an up and down, this shaking is not up and down, but rather in this direction. This mechanism here, this mechanism end ensures that this shaking is in this direction, in the lateral direction. It is not along the lengthwise, it does not shake along the lengthwise, but it does along the lateral direction. So there is a specific reason why there is this particular form of shaking is introduced. This we will see more rather in few minutes. But a specific form of shaking is introduced, and rather unconventional form of shaking is introduced as opposed to a longitudinal shaking of the table. What we achieve here is, or what we introduce here is rather a lateral form of shaking, and this mechanism end brings about this form of shaking. And so we have introduced an inclination. Through the inclination we have introduced the accelerating force, through the water the fluid force, and finally through the additional shaking force. In response to all these, the particles behave and they get collected at the concentrate end. So you have your concentrate end and you have your tailing side. We will observe in few minutes how these particles get collected at the concentrate and how they get separated. But you have, because of the inclination, these particles get collected at the concentrate end. The separated particles get collected at this end here. And again, this is because of the combinations of all the different forces, and also we ensure that there is no additional or there is not much influence of any additional forces, particularly the ones that are introduced by the interaction by appropriately reducing the amount of feed with respect to that of the water. Now, it is quite interesting to note that one end is referred to as the concentrate end and the other end is referred to as the tailing side. Now, when you rather name one end as the concentrate end and the other end as the tailing end, you are making an assumption that one of these two, that is gangue and the mineral, one of these two is rather heavier and other is lighter. Only when you make such an assumption, then you will be able to refer to one end of the table as the concentrate end and the other end as the tailing end. So that is something that we need to be clear about. Now, in this depiction, in this illustration, it has already been assumed that one end, so one of the two, gangue or mineral, one of the two is of lighter. It is already assumed. It is not open, it is assumed. One of the two is lighter particle, the other is the heavier particle. Now, in this case, you would soon realize that it is assumed that the gangue is a lighter particle, or the tile, which we refer to, which we call or another synonymous term for gangue, the tails, they are the lighter particles, and the concentrate or the mineral particles, they are the heavier particle. So this assumption is made, and therefore this particular illustration is rather named, or it is rather annotated as concentration end and trailing end. Now, the puzzling aspect of the role of the shaking is what we will see in this slide. So what we do is, the table motion, as it is indicated here, this table movement is nothing but the movement of the table along the lateral direction. Now what we have is, when we move this table along the lateral direction, assuming that the mineral particles, the concentrate, are dense, they will not move much distance away from that of the feed region. So if you assume, if you provide your feed along with the water, and then you move your particle or you move your table in this direction, the movement of a given particle along this direction, along the lateral direction, will depend on its density. The denser particle will get settled down here, whereas the lighter particle will get accumulated here. So you are feeding in your combination or your mixture of gangue and mineral. Along with it, you are introducing a significant portion of water or fluid, and then you are introducing a movement of this form. Now, in response to this movement, the particle move away from this feed side and they get accumulated in this table. And the position these particles occupied in this feed table, it depends on their density, because if they are heavier particle, this shaking movement will not be able to achieve sufficient response from the heavier particle. So therefore, these heavier particle, they get settled close to that of the feed side. For in case of lighter particle, we will be able to extract significant amount of response because of this shaking event. So therefore, they get settled along the farther side from that of the feed. So that is what we observe in this representation here. You have a table movement, you have a water distribution. So this water distribution rather enables or facilitates the movement of the particles into the table. So it allows the particles to settle down on the table based on their density. So since the density of the concentration or the mineral is assumed to be higher, they get settled down in a region that is close to that of the feed. And since it is already assumed that the density of the gangue is rather relatively less, so they form the lighter particles, they get settled farther away from that of the feed or the feed side. So the distribution or the settlement is rather distinct on the table, and this difference in the settlement is largely based on their density of the particles, and this is how concentration is achieved on the shaking table. So in shaking table, even though you introduce feed on a specific along a specific side, along a specific in a specific position, they get distributed all over the table, and this distribution is based on the density of the particles. and this distribution on the table is achieved by this table moment here. Now again, it could be surprising to you why the feed is being introduced here. So just the feed input here, if you could recollect the nature of the projection. So this is not the direct table representation. This is not a straightforward representation of the table. This is rather a projected version of the table. So this representation of feed here means before or at the beginning of, or at the other end of the table is where you have the feed. So that is what is indicated by having the feed in this position here. It does not mean that the feed side that is indicated here is actually here. So the reason why the feed is indicated here is because what we see here is a projection of the table, not the table itself. So that's the reason the feed is indicated here. If you consider the feed line, the feed side is something here. Again, this should not often confuse or bring some certain confusion, because the position of the concentrate and tailing, it depends on what you assume your densities to be. If you assume your concentrate to be lighter, then it will be further away from the feed side. If you assume as we have considered here, if we treat our tailing to be less denser or light particles, like we see here, they are further away from the feed side. So please don't be confused by the representation of feed here, because that is primarily because of the nature of the projection we have. And once we are able to separate these particles on the table, then the collection or the inclination that we have on the table will help us gather this concentrate, middling and tailing on the appropriate Landauers. So we have this appropriate Landauers, and they help us collect the corresponding concentrate, or they help us collect the corresponding categories of particles. So what you essentially have is the fluid flow and the feature of the particle. Even though they initiate a particular form of interaction, this interaction is rather amplified by the movement of the table. And because of this amplified interaction on the surface of the table, we are able to separate the concentration or concentrate middling, or the mineral particles middlings and the gangue, entirely based on their densities. And once they are separated entirely based on the densities, primarily because of the amplified movement that is brought about by the shaking event, then they get collected in the Landauers, appropriate baskets or the Landauers. Now, again, the one critical feature that is quite relevant to us is these Landauers, the size of the Landauers are rather adjustable. So depending on how much middling there is in the given mixture, how much concentrate there is in a given mixture, and how much tailing there is in a given mixture, we will be able to separate, or we will be able to make the corresponding changes to that of the basket, the size of the Landauers that we have. So by depending on how much of the concentrate is present in a given mixture, supposing if you have a mixture with a large portion of concentrate, then it is possible for us to relatively increase the size of the Landauer, and by reducing the portion that is of less amount. So we can either reduce that portion of middling or that of trailing. So this is rather adjustable Landauers. And the riffle here indicates it is possible for us to achieve this particular separation, this gravity separation on the shaking table using different layers, and that is what is rather indicated by this riffles here. So it is possible for us to have different layers of feed, and despite having different layers, their separation is based on that of their densities. So here, once they are separated, the interaction between the particles can be allowed, of course, because they are separated. These interaction between the particles should be avoided only along the feed side, because that interaction will introduce the role of other factors. So the interaction between the particles is only avoided along the feed side. So once the separation is established, it is possible for us to have any number of layers of be it gangue, be it concentrate, or be it middlings, and that is what we refer to as the rifles. So with this, we have reached, we have considered another part of, or another form of gravity separation, which is the shaking table approach. So with this, we will wind our lecture up, and in the next lecture, we will consider another form of gravity separation, that or another form of concentration that is entirely different from gravity separation. Goodbye.